All right, so we put out a call for patrons to send in their video ideas, and one of the most popular requests was how we do our weather routing. So there's no better time than now as we're coming around the bottom of South Africa, because there's a lot of different variables and things to consider. So I guess we'll just start by talking about what happens around this part of the world and why it's really important to plan the weather ahead of time. It all sits around two separate high pressure systems. One is in the southern Indian Ocean and the other one is in the South Atlantic, so somewhere over that way, but way further actually. What happens is during the summer months, these guys move a bit further south, which brings the lows further south along this belt here. So the lows are born over in the bottom of South America, and because the highs are low, they get pushed down and they come around this way, and then it gets pinched up in between this guy and comes up the coast. And that's where you get those gnarly southwest busters they talk about that rage up this coast here. And they can be gale force and higher, which wouldn't normally be that big of a problem, but then you have this guy coming in, the Agulhas current. So when these lows come in around the corner, they start blowing up like this. This current runs between, what, 2.5?
Yeah, 2 to 5 knots.
2 to 5 knots. So when you get
can be higher,
40 to 50 knots of wind against a current that's 5 knots, you get these massive freak standing waves that are 20 plus meters at times. So that's kind of what happens during the summer. And as the conditions change into winter, these highs move further north and sit maybe about right there, around 30 or so. So what that does to the lows is they actually cross over the land more. And then you get these northwesterlies that are coming down here, which is kind of what we're experiencing right now. So these cross more over the land, and they're spinning like this. And then all of a sudden you have the front of the low that's running with the current. And then they go on and they cross over the current, and then they usually dissipate. They don't move up the coast as much because this high is kind of squishing them. The problem with that is these happen less frequently during the winter, but you can get these coastal lows that pop up unexpectedly. And that happens due to these highs being like this, and they're actually a lot bigger than the notes. They're massive. And this one's spinning like this, and this one's spinning like this. And then you get one that pops up due to this spinning. So it starts spinning the air that way, this one's spinning the air that way, and out of nowhere you can just have a little coastal low pop up. And they don't last more than, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours or 12 hours, but they can be really gnarly and massive, and they're kind of hard to predict. So Delos is there now, and here's our current. And you can see as the current runs along the continental shelf, when it gets down here, it gets quite wide, and we're trying to make it to Reunion. So the best thing, and what we've been told, which makes perfect sense, is you come up here and you ride really close to the coast the whole way up. And that way you can sometimes get a counter current, or you get very, very little current once you're inside of the, is it 200 meter line or 100 meter line?
Yeah, the continental shelf, it basically follows the contour of the continental shelf.
Yeah.
Which is that line right there, the blue line.
But as you get further north, it does get skinnier and skinnier. So we've kind of made the decision that our turning off point would be East London. It's kind of more, I guess, like that, really. East London is kind of a good point where it funnels back in, and you don't have as far to cross it if we were to leave from down here. But also, it doesn't make too much sense to go all the way up this way, beating against the current, just to cross it.
It's like 350 nautical miles from East London to Durban, something like that, I think.
And especially because this high is sitting here. So if you want to get to Reunion and you start crossing here and you have, let's say, northerlies coming down from this high. So you have these northerlies and you cross. All of a sudden, once you're here, if you're not far enough south, you're beating into these winds. So you either have to motor through them or go south through the center of the high, and then you get your southeasterlies and come up to Reunion.
So we are right here kind of now.
Yep.
So in what weather, like we want to cross this current in a northerly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
very
only
light
way
northerly.
to like.
I mean, you could cross it in a.
Not an easterly, but you really don't see easterlies there, and not anything with a southern component, because that's when the waves will get big against the current.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we're worried about now. Is right now there's not much going on right here. It's really light winds coming out of the west. So what could happen, because this high over here is doing this and this one's doing this, what could happen is one of these can pop up, which is kind of what we're looking for now as we're just about to cross. We don't want one of those to pop right when we're about to cross it. So that's a very important thing that we'll look at when we check the GRIB files and predict wind.
So before we left, I got the current looking at it on Windy TY, and I put a couple of points in here from sort of halfway between East London to where the current looked like it diminished to like half a knot or so, like not a significant current, and it looked to be about 200 nautical miles wide here,
right?
From measured out from the coast, and we're like 3 miles off the coast right now.
Yep.
Whereas down here, it was like 2 or 3. It was really, really wide because the current kind of like wraps this way.
Yeah, and kind of blasts out.
So the point of danger we were in that is 200 miles, which if we're making 150 miles a day going 6 knots is what?
36 hours or
a day and a quarter, a day and a half at the most, or something like that.
And then you said it's really important to kind of aim for these islands instead of going like that, right?
Yeah, according to old Jimmy Cornell and World Cruising Routes and kind of what we'd heard from local sailors that have done this trip in the Cats doing deliveries, you aim for the Walter Shoals when you leave. And if you aim for that, it puts you in a good spot. So let's say you cross the current, that's all good, you cross in very light northerlies. It puts you in a good position for this high because it's sitting quite high up. So then you get into this high and you can make different decisions based on how much fuel you have and really what you want to do. But you can either motor kind of at an angle like that through the top part of the high, get into the southeasterlies.
For like 2 or 3 days or something.
Yeah, depending on how big it is. It
Yeah.
could be 60 miles, it could be a couple hundred miles. So that, I guess you make that call when you get there. And then you make your turn into the southeasterlies, and then you get to Reunion.
Or we could go
or
it, which adds
or you
quite
go
a bit
down
of miles.
and you stay low, because I imagine when we leave here we are going to get pushed south with the current, and if we have a northerly, so we'll probably be coming at it from maybe a bit further south than Walter Shoals. So then we can cross under that or above that depending on what this high is doing, because this high kind of moves all the time.
Yeah.
And then we can go around the bottom of it and wrap around depending on how big the center is, and then we'll be there.
So what do you say? Should we download some weather and
Let's see what the weather routing says, the software, and we'll get some GRIBs and check it out.
We used to check weather with our SSB radio. We had the big antenna on the back and the Pacto modem, and it worked really awesome for years, and it was completely free for us. But we heard reports of a lack of coverage in the Indian Ocean. So before we left Thailand this year, we got one of these guys. And this is the Iridium Go. And we ended up ordering this as a package deal from Predict Winds. And we got the unit, we got the external antenna, and it comes with a rechargeable battery. And it's pretty sweet because it's basically like a little Wi-Fi hotspot. So it's totally self-sufficient. You turn it on like this. It can connect to 5 devices, I think it is?
Yeah.
So up to 5 devices on a little local area network. And you subscribe to a plan, and then you can actually do like SMS, you can do voice calls, you can do check-in weather, which is what we're mainly using it for right now. So
and basic email is good too.
Yeah, email is pretty awesome on it. And through the Predict Wind service, Brady's actually going to connect his laptop to it, and then he's going to download some weather routing and some GRIB files. And we're going to check them out. So, because it has a rather small antenna, unless you have a clear view of the sky, it doesn't really get the best reception. And we were having some disconnected call issues. So what we ended up doing was installing an external antenna on the solar arch, and we power it. It's powered and charged by a standard USB, and then we have the antenna, and then we just leave it mounted on the wall like that. So it's always plugged in. It doesn't use very much power, and we can connect to it with like our tablet or our phones for email, or Brady's laptop, which we use for weather. So let's go see if he's connected yet.
Okay, so we've got Predict Wind opened, and we're connected to the Iridium Go through the Wi-Fi hotspot. And the first thing we'll do is we'll select our area that we want to get the GRIB file for. So we'll zoom in down here to South Africa. I've already kind of selected an area like that, but let's do something a bit bigger so we can see if there's any lows coming behind us. And then the second thing we'll do is we'll do weather routing to see what the program says for us going to Reunion. So we've got our green dot here, which is where you start. And if you zoom in, it should pick up our GPS coordinates for where we currently are. We should be right, that's us right there. So we'll drag the green guy over to him. And then the red one we'll put into Reunion. There's also a lot of other cool stuff you can do. Departure planning, so it'll tell you what day you should leave. Destination forecast if you want to know the conditions where you're going. GMDSS, if you have really low signal, it's only like 1.5 kilobyte and it's just a written synopsis of the area. And then satellite imagery, so you can see kind of an overview of what the satellites see. Click the download, and now we'll go ahead and get the GRIB offshore as well as the weather routing. And that's it. Click download, and now it's attempting to dial. It'll do its little thing, contact the Iridium satellite servers, and start downloading our stuff. So the whole file size for this was 520 kilobytes, and we'll see how long it takes.
Heed this warning.
So how long did that take? About 30 minutes? 45 minutes?
43 minutes and 51 seconds.
There it is. And everything is downloaded. So the first thing I like to check is the satellite to see if there's any low pressure systems popping up, especially because it's kind of the end of the cyclone season in the South Indian Ocean. So they would be starting up here and then wrapping their way down. And it doesn't look like there's any spiral formations there. So let's check our GRIBs now. So it's really cool because you get 4 different forecast models in this program, and that's what we're experiencing right now. And we'll see the first model as we start to go through. This is the high pressure system that's kind of moving off, so we're expecting to get some southwesterlies coming in, but this high pressure system is kind of sitting there. This distance is about, I measured it before, it's about 300 miles or so.
So the breeze right now is actually more westerly than north, so it's like west-northwest, what we're seeing.
Let's go to, let's say we were to cross the current tonight or tomorrow morning or something. It looks like it starts to die out. So very light, kind of variable all over the place. So you can see this little bubble here, that's kind of the low that I was talking about, like the coastal lows that pop up. This high spinning like that causes this thing to spin here. So it's only showing, that little low is only showing up in one of the forecasts. And then let's go another 24 hours. So it's still really, really light over here. So ideally we want to get into these northerlies.
So to me, between where we are now and Durban looks like a much longer distance than from us to where those pretty solid northerlies are on the other side of the current.
Yeah, I agree. The northerlies are up at Durban, but for us to get up there, because the current comes in real close to the shore, so for us to get up there, we wouldn't be up there until Friday sometime. And that's not really ideal. And plus we'd be motoring the whole way anyways. So if we can use our motoring to cross the current
in calm conditions.
Or very light southwesterlies. Or is it this one? Yeah, okay, let's say that one holds true. That's kind of the worst
So what do we
that could happen.
This is the PWC model.
Yeah, PWC model, tomorrow at about noon. We see that little low pop up just for a couple hours, it looks like. And we get, could be 20, 25 out of the southwest. So it's not 40 against current, but I think I don't know how much it would stack the waves, I don't know. But if that one held true, tomorrow, let's say we made our turn tonight, we'd be getting into the current right when this is starting, basically. So we did PWC is the one that's going to show us a bit more, 20 to 25 out of the southwest. GFS shows nothing really, a big area of high pressure, so 0 to 5 knots, and the CMC shows nothing as well. So one out of the forecasts show there could be a coastal low that pops up right there tomorrow afternoon.
And which way is that moving?
It looks like it just goes away.
It just diminishes,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Over a period of what time?
Let's see, it starts at about Wednesday at 2 in the morning, it starts coming in, and it's diminished by Wednesday at 8 at night. But, I mean, even if that does hold, it's good westerlies to get across.
Yeah.
Everything's good except to southwesterly, which is what kind of happens right there. Let's say we just decided to turn down and start motoring. At 5 knots, 24 hours, we'd kind of be right in the middle of that, wouldn't we? Well, let's see what the software tells us to do.
Weather routing.
Weird. So one of the routes, it gives you 4 routes based on 4 different models, and one of the routes has this kind of tacking over and beating into it, going above the high. And the other ones have us kind of skirting the top of the high, kind of like what we'd like to do, I think.
And one of us has it going right through the center of it.
Right from the center of the high, and then going up. So,
But all 4 of them have us going east from here.
yep. But that's also because you can add different points in. So let's say if I added a different point into the line there, then I can tell it, okay, well, we want to go up the coast first. It does the shortest distance. It wouldn't direct us up unless I told it to.
Okay.
Sort of thing. But let's look at, okay, if we go to the tables, we can go in here, we can see what it anticipates for us to see current-wise. Okay, this is the highest I see is 3 knots, 3.1. And that would be, if we were to turn now, that would be 1 in the morning. Or even tonight.
You know it's more than 3 knots out there.
Well, it's
yeah.
anywhere between 2 and 5 knots is the deal, depending on where you are. And from our experience down the coast last year, right, we saw the biggest current between Durban and East London.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we left East London, it was like pretty low.
I remember
definitely under 2 knots.
we actually went out to sea to try and find it.
And we
then
didn't. We went way out and
we never found anything substantial.
Useful. So there's no gnarly, terrible
There's no gnarly,
systems
terrible
coming.
system coming.
It's just this possibility of this 20 to 25 knotter that
out of the southwest that'll last for 10 hours. But I think the sooner we turn, because this high is slowly moving this way, it's kind of hovering, but it's slowly.
the sooner we turn, the better off.
The
it is.
sooner we turn, the sooner we get to these northerlies, the better it is.
Does that mean we should turn right now?
I don't know.
The only caveat with turning now is that little thing that one of the models shows up.
So, okay, let's say we turn now. We come through, we start getting into the northerlies. We kind of went through that scenario. Let's do the other scenario where we motor up to East London. And then we turn. So we get to East London. How far are we away from
Like
London?
40 miles.
40 miles
So
away.
we're 7 hours away from East London.
So we get there kind of tonight. Let's just say 2 in the morning. We get there. The conditions are basically the same, right? Either we'd pull into East London and wait for this little low to dissipate, or there's no point to motor up there unless we were going to pull into East London, really.
So I think that those conditions, if they do develop, would be a little uncomfortable, but nothing dangerous that I see. That's my gut instinct.
I agree, because the only way it's going to get worse is if these 2 highs come together and compress that low and really get it going. But because it's winter time and the highs are pressed up, they're sitting really high. So any of the stuff that develops on the coast, it just comes and goes.
It's relatively short-lived.
Yeah.
What do you think, Heather?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard because that can as well be, I mean, it says 20, but it could be 30, like, you know, it could be worse, but it also...
I even think in 30 knots, 35 would be okay. It would be uncomfortable.
Because it wouldn't be 6 knots of current down here. It would be like 3, maybe 4 max.
So I think it doesn't become dangerous until 40 plus knots in 5 knots of current is when it really...
Yeah, it kicks up.
And we know that this boat can handle big seas and swells, and if we're under sail, we get knocked around a little bit, but it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
So is that the call? Let's turn.
That's my vote, but only if we're 100% on it.
Yeah.
If you guys are.
Yeah.
I feel good about that.
Okay.
We've got enough wind now, or we can just...
Yeah, because I don't really see any point in going north. It's
anymore.
Just burning
unless we're going to wait in East London. But if you're going to waste time going north to get to a smaller part, you might as well just cross and use that time going the right way.
Okay, guys, let's do it.
Let's do it. We're turning. Reunion.
Here we come.
We'll check back with our findings.
See how we turned out soon.
So we're making the turn.
We're making the turn.
We're turning now.
Yeah.
Right now.